When the Utah Jazz traded away their two cornerstone franchise players, three-time Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert and an all-star scoring guard Donovan Mitchell, many believed that the Jazz would take a massive tumble in the standings the following season, being a team that tanked for a chance at a generational talent like Victor Wembanyama. However, that hasn't been the case. Sure, they have cooled off after a super hot start to the season and are now below 500, but a 20-22 record at this point is way better than they were expected to be, because they were projected to win between 20 and 22 games over the course of the entire season. And a lot of that has to do with the play of one of the players they received in the Donovan Mitchell trade, Lauri Markkanen. Markkanen was a player who entered the league with some hype around him as a stretch four with this ability to shoot the basketball out of Arizona. He was the 7th overall pick in 2017 by the Minnesota Timberwolves before immediately being traded to the Bulls in the Jimmy Butler trade. Of course, being tall, being able to shoot, and being European, he got some dirt comparisons. However, it didn't go quite as planned despite putting up decent to even good numbers in his tenure with the Bulls. He never really seemed to fit in with their timeline and even showed some signs of regression in year 3 and 4, which led to the Bulls not extending him once he was eligible for his rookie extension and instead trading him in a sign-and-trade deal to the Cavs at the end of the summer. Markkanen was actually solid on a Cavs team that shocked a lot of people by making a legit playoff push and honestly being a team that would have been a top 5 seed in the East if they didn't deal with injuries down the stretch. And with the success the Cavs saw in that core of Garland, Mobley, and Allen, they decided to make a splash move and trade Lauri Markkanen alongside Colin Sexton and 2022 lottery pick, 14th overall Ochai Agbaji, to the Utah Jazz for Donovan Mitchell. That trade worked out well for the Cavs as Donovan Mitchell just went Super Saiyan and had the first ever 70-plus point, 10-plus assist game in NBA history, and also has a legit case for first team All-NBA this season, and has been everything the Cavs have hoped for and then some. But the Jazz aren't hurting from the deal much either. Sure, they don't have a legit top 20 player in the league anymore, but Lauri has taken a leap this season that I believe is worthy of an all-star selection and, more importantly, living up to the words of Sada Baby. He's averaging career highs in multiple categories. His 24.6 points a game are a career high, and the first time he's averaged at least 20 points a game in a season. His 53.1% from the field is a career high, and the first time he shot above 50% from the field in a season. His 41.7% from 3 is a career high, and the second time he shot above 40% from 3 in the season. His 67.32 shooting percentage is a career high, and also just absurd efficiency for a player who's as perimeter oriented as he is. He shoots at least 50% from every 2-point field goal distance range, and it's not just about the efficiency, it's about the volume as well. Career high in field goal attempts per game at 16. Career high in 3-point attempts per game at 7.3. Career high in free throw attempts per game at 5.3. His efficiency going up as his volume goes up is a very encouraging sign to me. A philosophy that I always hold about basketball is no matter how bad your team is, your stats aren't empty if they are efficient. And I'm not saying the Jazz are a bad team per se. They aren't a good one, but I wouldn't say they're bad either. But regardless of that, you can't really say Lauri is putting up empty stats when he's this efficient. He's not shooting his team out of games. He's not taking a bunch of inefficient shots. He's not forcing the issue in a bad way. He's playing some of the most efficient basketball I've seen from a forward in a while. He's gotten more aggressive attacking the basket. He's become a better self-creator. His play has kept the Jazz in many games that they weren't expected to be in. His improvements he's shown on tape are just as encouraging as the ones in the box score. I think it's going to be hard to leave a guy averaging almost 25 points per game on near 50, 40, 90 and say, yeah, he's just not an all-star. Because to me, Lauri is an all-star based off the way he's playing this season and having the Jazz well above expectations compared to what we thought they were going to be entering the year. In my opinion, Lauri Markkanen should be the heavy favorite to win Most Improved Player this season. His case for the award is pretty easy for me. His scoring numbers have taken a jump by nearly 10 points per game. His volume and efficiency numbers have taken a noticeable jump. His play on the court has been noticeably better on tape. He's a big reason why the Jazz are way better than expected. And at the end of the day, he went from a player who didn't get a rookie extension with the team that drafted him, was a player that no team really wanted until the end of the summer, and that's a pretty long wait for a free agent coming off his rookie extension as a top 7 pick if they were viewed as good, and then got traded after one season with that new team. If I told you that without any context of who that player was, you would believe that player was on the bench, in the G League, or out of the league. Not a player who's putting up an all-star to even borderline all-NBA level season. But that's what Lauri has been doing, and why I believe he's the easy most improved player this season. I also want to talk about something that I know people have been thinking and saying, and that's this idea that the Jazz are making a mistake by not tanking and being in this spot where they end up in this play-in and maybe they don't make it and they end up with like the 13th pick instead of tanking for a generational talent Victor Wembanyama, and also a pretty loaded draft class where you can get a guy at 6 or 7 that could be a high-impact player. And the thing is, that's not how teams think. Teams don't think like that. And it's something that front offices think. It's something that fans think about when you talk about losing to get a high pick. But players don't think that. Players just go out and play. And when players go out and play, their objective is to win the game. These are guys that at every other level of the game they play at, they've been winners. And it's frustrating to them when they lose. So they're going to try and lose. And when you look at this Jazz team has guys who have either been in the playoffs, have been in a spot like a play-in tournament, like Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, even though Sexton was out with the injury. So they've been around teams where there is winning going on. Even guys like Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt, there was a chance they go to the second round of the playoffs that year before in Minnesota. So these aren't guys that are just going to be okay with the idea of losing on purpose. It's not how they think, and it's not how we expect any NBA player to think. So the idea of them making a quote-unquote mistake by not tanking, that's not really up to anyone. That's just an idea from fans and maybe a front office. But even with Danny Ainge is a player that doesn't like to tank, and you can look at what he did in Boston and look what he's doing in Utah, and it's very clear that's not how he likes to operate. And I think the Jazz are an example of that, and honestly, I don't think it's a mistake at all. I'll admit I've made my fair share of jokes at the expense of Lauri early on in his career. I've talked about his flaws on defense and his lack of paint scoring ability and ability to post up a defender in a joking manner, but I'm also glad that he's proving me wrong this season, which is awesome because I love when players prove me wrong. I don't say this because I think I'm important or that my standards are the law. I don't think that at all. I'm just a guy on the internet making basketball videos at the end of the day. I say it because I like seeing good basketball at any level or league in the world. But in all cases of basketball, they're going to be good and bad. So to see someone who I may have had a negative opinion on prove me wrong means that I get to see even more good basketball. And seeing as much good basketball as possible is always something I love to see. That's what Lauri has been this season, and hopefully in the seasons to come.